Hello everyone, welcome to this brief video lecture. My name is Krzysztof Zięba and I work as a professor in the Department of Entrepreneurship, Gdansk University of Technology. In this video, I would like to present to you some reflections on economic growth and what are the possible consequences of this growth. Okay, so let's think for a while. What is needed for people to have a good life in terms of economic aspects? Well, first of all, I would say people need to have work, right? So they should have the possibility to work if only they want to work. Number two, money we earn while working should have a stable value, so it shouldn't lose its value over time. Number three, the income that we earn is high and most preferably growing. If those 3 points are actually a good description of a good life, then economists already have some answers, some proposals. First of all, people would have jobs if the unemployment rate is low. And by low, we mean typically from 4 to 6%. Secondly, money we earn has a stable value if the inflation rate is low. And low would usually means like 2% a year. This is low inflation, and this inflation keeps our income safe from losing its value. Relatively safe, let's say. Last but not least, if we want our society to have high incomes, then the gross domestic product that we generate in our economy should be high. If those incomes are supposed to be growing, then our gross domestic product should also be growing. How quickly? Well, 2 to 3% would be what we hope for. So, what is the gross domestic product and how does it contribute to our income? Gross domestic product is defined as the total value of all final goods and services produced domestically over a certain period of time, which is usually 1 year. What is produced in the economy creates income. Every production, everything that is sold creates income. Therefore, the value of gross domestic product can be associated with that total income for the whole society. Obviously, in various countries, the total income is divided among the members of the society in a different way, more equally or less equally. It depends on the country, on a specific situation of a country, on some specific policies that are used in this country, and so on and so forth. Economists like gross domestic product as this is a very convenient way of measuring the level of economic activity of a country. Why do we need such a synthetic measure of general economic activity? Well, first of all, this is because the government wants to design economic policies that should be aimed at improving the well-being of the society. For that, we need to know how the economy is doing right now. Secondly, we find gross domestic product as a useful tool to compare the level of well-being between different countries. This is obviously problematic because we need to account for different currencies, different price levels, and we need to overcome many problems in order to compare well-being between countries. Thirdly, gross domestic product is useful to trace the changes in the level of well-being over time. For those 3 reasons, we find gross domestic product is a very useful thing. But can we actually use gross domestic product in the future? Would it be a good measure for the future generations? Do you know the pin of the earth? Like, the personal identification number that we have for our bank cards, for instance. Do you know the pin of the Earth. It's actually very simple. It is 1114. How do we know? Well, have a look at both Americas. About 1 billion people living there. Look at Europe. Another nearly 1 billion people living in Europe. Look at Africa. Another billion. Finally, look at Asia. It's 4 billion already. 1114. That's the pin. And the global population of people is probably one of the greatest problems for using old ways of measuring economic activities with such huge emphasis on production. If we go back to the year when Jesus Christ was supposedly born, if we count people living on our planet at those times, we would count something like 250 million people. That is considerably less than the number of people currently living in the United States of America. The whole world versus the America today. And for hundreds of years, the number of people living on Earth was pretty stable. It took something like 1,500 years for the global population to double. Around the year 1500, it is estimated there were 500 million people living on Earth. But then things got faster. It took only 320 years to double the population once more. So we reached 1 billion people in approximately 1820. The development of our civilization allowed to double the population over the next century. Before the Second World War in 1930, there were already 2 billion people inhabiting the Earth. After 44 years, we doubled again to reach 4 billion in 1974. And it will take less than 50 years to double again. And in 2 years' time, in 2023, there would be 8 billion people living on our planet. Okay, time for news. The good news and the bad news. The good news is we have less and less children. Therefore, 10 billion people is probably the maximum number of people living on our planet at one time. The bad news is it seems not possible to meet the needs of such a great number of people. Let's have a look at those needs. Well, the problem is that compared to the times of Jesus Christ being born, there are 32 times more people in the world. But also those people consume much, much more than they used to. When you think of, Christopher Columbus sailing to America, it was a great journey. One could say it was a journey of a lifetime. It is comparable with the journey to Mars nowadays. Yet nowadays, we often fly to America to work there or just for holidays. We go to other countries just to have a rest, just to have some fun. We consume a lot. Recently, in one of the high schools, I conducted a kind of a classroom experiment. I asked all the students to stand up. Then I asked them several questions about what they have in their households. Only those who gave the negative answer, I don't have something, were allowed to sit down back. I asked them about having smartphones, computers, TVs, washing machines, dishwashers, coffee makers, cars, and many other objects. And the vast majority of students have them all. After a long series of questions, almost half of them were still standing. They did not give any negative answer. They had all the things They had all the things that I asked them about. And when you think of such students 100 years ago, when just a quarter of people lived on our planet, nobody possessed all those things, maybe apart from cars. 100 years ago, cars were already available, but they were hardly available to the general public. It's a great increase in the number of people plus a great increase in their consumption that makes further growth hardly possible. Economics teaches us a lot about scarcity. Scarcity is the problem of the conflict between limited resources on one hand and unlimited needs on the other hand. How can we assume unlimited growth in the world of limited resources? The answer is we cannot assume that. Hence, the need for a new economics, and this is what is so exciting about studying economics, the need for defining new rules. Again, this is your responsibility of all the young generations to define those rules and to invent the new economics. Good luck with that. It's not going to be easy, but it seems to be really necessary.